Station. Okay. All right. And Jake told me to remove Adelaide Point. Okay. So that one's coming up.
Do both. She wanted to buy the bacon.
Hey, how's it going?
It's right here. Is your earliest type ever seen your shit up?
Yeah. I don't know if it's the earliest, but have I ever been late?
Come out the city.
She said
That's what we call shade. In the streets, we call that shade.
I think he took them into the street.
Okay, well, we'll look into it.
Right. I don't think I've been as late as our friend over there, who usually missions prayer on a regular basis. He must not need it.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission meeting for October 26th, 2021. Before we begin the proceedings, I'd like to invite up Pastor Tim Cross from Living Word Church to lead us in prayer. Anyone who would like to join us, please do. And that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and if you wish to join us in that as well, please do. Pastor?
Father, we thank you. Your word says we enter your gates with thanksgiving and we enter your courts with praise. So, Father, we just thank you. We thank you for your goodness. We thank you for this city that we live in. We thank you for the people that serve in this city and serve this community. We thank you for these city commissioners. We thank you for our police and fire department, the city employees, those that just work to help those citizens of this city to be able to function and do our jobs. And so, Father, we give you thanks for that. We thank you for this beautiful day. And, Father, we thank you as well for your help. Father, your word says that you're an ever-present help in the difficult places of life. So, Father, we just thank you for your help. We thank you for your help and wisdom for decisions that are made concerning this city, concerning our future. And, Father, you said in your word that we were supposed to pray for the peace and the prosperity of the land that we live in. So, Father, we pray for peace on our streets. We pray for deliverance. Jesus, you taught us to pray, deliver us from evil. Father, deliver us from violence, from murder, from bloodshed. Father, we ask for peace in our streets, peace in our homes, peace in our community. And that, Father, that you would prosper this city and cause us to come up. Father, we thank you for the progress that we see that's continuing in this city. And, Father, we ask for it to increase and that for Muskegon to more and more become a beautiful city, a great place to raise a family. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner German?
Here.
Commissioner Renzabasipiga?
Here.
Commissioner Emery? Absent. Commissioner Johnson? Absent. Mayor Gallren?
Here.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Here.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Here. Thank you. At this time, we offer an opportunity for folks to come up and give public comment on any one of the agenda items for tonight. I did want to draw attention to one specifically, which is item E under
Public hearings.
What is it?
Public hearings.
Oh, under public hearings, inclusive zoning. This is informational. only. There's no action being taken tonight on inclusive zoning. Staff has been making presentations throughout the city over the past, over a year, and most recently at Jackson Hill and at McLaughlin, where a number of neighborhood associations were invited to participate. Again, it is informational. We definitely want to hear your insights on it. But again, this is a presentation as an update to the commission for information to moving forward for continued consideration of the idea. So at this time, I do have Ann Garoon. You specified inclusive zoning for item E as one of the agenda items. Would you like to address it at this time? Please come right ahead. People that do come up, please, we ask for your name and address just for the record. And each individual is given 3 minutes to make comment. We do not engage in debate or deliberation with any of the speakers, but we always make arrangements for the appropriate staff member should there be specific questions to make contact with the individual. And please keep an eye on the clerk. She is our timekeeper. Okay, go right ahead.
Good evening, Ann Derwin, 1391 West Laketon Avenue. I'm with the understanding that everyone did not receive notice about this plan, the form-based code, and I understand you did go to some neighborhood associations, however, you didn't go to mine. I wasn't notified of any of this. I understand that each area is different, so I would have appreciated some information on that. Everybody doesn't have a computer. I do. I did go to the site. However, I'm asking, what is generating the need for all this extra housing? Are we preparing for those that are coming into our country when we don't know when, where, how? Unvaccinated. I'm wondering if that's one of the reasons. I really don't know. We aren't privy to that information per the federal government. There are strings attached to this sort of thing. There are lockdowns in places where they have government subsidized housing. Are we going to have apartment homes with multi-apartments, duplexes, single homes, carriage houses, and garages with upstairs apartments all in one block is what is shown on the presentation? I noticed the homes under the Nelson Bridge are terribly close. I understand they did not go by code. That's going to be a parking nightmare this winter. I was very sad to see that some of the members of the Planning Commission were not at the meeting on October 14th when the public was making their comments. I don't really want to point you out, but I think you know who you are. I think it's a necessity for all properties within a location to be included in this. Case in point, all of Jefferson is not zoned for form-based coding, and it's still zoned R1. It's the only street in the Nelson neighborhood with R1 zoning. We understand the chair of the Planning Commission and also the city manager live on this street. It is historic, I was told, but there are many historic districts within the Nelson neighborhood. They have been rezoned to form-based residential. At this point, I am not in favor of this. Your plan is too much with too few people knowing all the information necessary. Would like to have more information, would like to have you come to the individual associations, neighborhood associations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ann. And we can follow up to see why you wouldn't have gotten a notice. We can find out why you wouldn't have received a notice, because I got mine.
I received a notice of the planning commission, October 14th.
Oh, okay, then.
Nothing at the association.
Okay, that was a function of the neighborhood associations, not the city. Are there any other individuals that would like to speak on any of the agenda items at this time? Mr. Howeisen?
Michael Hall is 903 Turner Avenue, Muskegon, Michigan. You ought to be able to just automatically write that by now. Anyhow.
Which item?
Good evening, Mayor, and all the commission that's here. You know that I've been a staunch backer.
Which?
Oh, I'm sorry, D and E.
I'm sorry,
D and E.
D and E. Okay, go right ahead.
All right. As you already know from the last 8 years or plus of me coming down here and talking to you, I'm a staunch backer of our emergency services and first responders. I'm so tickled pink that you're buying these AEDs. AEDs. I hope that you do purchase them because they're going to be put to good use. Anything to save lives in our city is a good thing. I'd also like to back the getting the pump for the fireboat. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't already have one. But anyhow, that's my 2 cents worth, and I'll be back later on after all the agenda's done.
Okay, very good for general comment. Thank you, Mr. Howison. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak on any one of the agenda items at this time? Please.
I just have some questions. Oh, sorry. My name is Venia Coleman. Y'all should know about it. 516 Marshall Street, Muskegon, Michigan. And I just have some, since it's not on board to be voted for, it's E.
On the form,
Jackson,
on
he
the
get form
inclusive
based.
zoning, correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just have some questions I want you guys to think about.
Okay.
Are you guys going to follow form-based code to the letter? Will you monopolize the developers while they're of who are allowed to build on the property, or are you going to open it up for everybody? Because I met a young man and he was from the area, so he would know best how to design the area.
Okay.
So will you consider other people? Will you design Jackson Hill with the people in mind? Will you keep it close to how the neighborhood is designed? Will you bring the plans to the neighborhood so we can have our input how we would like our layout to be? And that's it. I would like for you to keep these in mind. The young man that was here the last time on the 14th actually turned my mind around. And I watched some YouTube videos and I read up on form-based code. If it is done correctly, then it would be a good thing. But if you have just one person building all over the place, then I think, to me, that wouldn't be fair, because you're not putting us into consideration and then you having him take over with his idea of how he wants the neighborhood to be. So just keep that in mind. Keep us in mind.
Absolutely.
Keep our design of Jackson Hill in mind. We have, like I said, big yards. We're very green. Lots of trees. I love it. You know, just think about us. Think about the people that you guys are going to affect. Keep them in mind. That's all we ask. Okay?
Okay.
That's all.
And we know we got more work with that Mayor's Institute for City Design stuff we've been involved in. You know.
Well, bring it on down to Jackson
bring it
Hill
on
Neighborhood
down.
Association.
Well,
And we can, look,
Hey.
I already told Leanne about
You
an
know-
idea I had. It was beautiful, wasn't it, Leanne? See? Thank you.
Okay. Are there any here? And then, sir, in the back.
Hi there, I'm Craig Person, 169 Iona, in the McLaughlin neighborhood of Muskegon. I own Blue House Manor and several other buildings on Isabella, and I'm in favor of the form-based code. I see what some of the good things that are happening. I do take in what everybody's saying, and there's ways to make it happen in a good way. I'm very committed to seeing the neighborhood improve and make some progress. And I know the city's trying to do their best job they can. I just wanted to let you know, I did get notice. All of my buildings got notice. I got more than one notice. That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Craig.
Good evening. How everybody doing? My name is Calvin Mclaren. I live at 223 Amity Avenue. Now, I just stepped in, so I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn or whatnot, but forgive me, but I didn't want to let it slip by because I do hear some input on what I'm speaking on. You know, first of all, I agree. I'm excited about the city of Muskegon doing what it's doing. But at the same time, I feel like to some degree that some of the residents, you know, when we moved in the areas, we moved in to have big lots, you know, plenty of area. You know, like she said, green, plenty of trees. And some of the homes that you're sticking in, I kind of object to, especially when you come to that particular area. Because, like at my address, if you come in and you start sticking in the ones that I see down there on Michigan Avenue, see, then it's going to be like, it's going to look closer to a project. I moved into the home because of the space in the room that I had with the land. And I would like to see the city try to work a little bit closer with the neighbors, because a lot of us was not informed of this new change that all of a sudden the lot that you thinking that you can get and was working towards, now those rules are no longer here. But I just wish that you guys consider the areas that you're putting some of these homes in and try to make them viable to the area in which they're in, instead of all of a sudden making it look like, oh, well, this look like part of the project. Oh, but that's a nice house right there. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, to keep it all, to some degree, uniform with the neighborhood.
Sure. And that's really the intent, and hopefully you'll hear more of that when we get an update on the presentation.
Okay, all right, and that sounds good. And I myself would also like to see exactly what the city of Muskegon is actually doing, because I come in, I expect to see a board up on the wall or something, show me exactly what's going on. Sorry about that.
But right now, there's no planned projects. It's a question of, are we going to adopt a new type of zoning that would allow for different things? But you'll hear more of that when the presentation is made. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a Charlotte Johnson? Oh.
Hi, Charlotte Johnson, 219 Catherine Avenue. I live in the McLaughlin neighborhood. I've been married 30 years to my husband, Bryant Johnson. He is a small business owner. I grew up in the Angel neighborhood. My siblings and I attended Angel Elementary School. Almost 50 years ago, I experienced white flight in the second grade. In the Angel neighborhood, soon realizing that white flight happened in Nelson, Jackson Hill, McLaughlin, and the Angel neighborhood. The system of flight left these 4 urban neighborhoods cared for and supported by the indigenous, people of color, and the poor. My parents still have their home in the Angel neighborhood, and they're still paying taxes. When people walked away from these 4 urban communities, we stayed. We paid our taxes. We kept the neighborhoods. They were kept by loyal, committed community members. Fast forward to around 2012 and the city's desire to alleviate crime in the Nelson neighborhood as a precursor for the 2015 revitalization. Let's look at history. In these 4 urban neighborhoods, there was disinvestment for years. Well, when residents aren't valued and opportunity is dismissed and becomes the norm, the marginalized are left standing alone without resources. Poverty, economic deprivation, social isolation will breed crime in any racial group. So I would refer you to study the Kerner Commission report of 1967, ordered by Lyndon B. Johnson. The conditions were created, persuaded, and maintained by the government. Let's circle back to the 2015 revitalization of the Nelson neighborhood. The city brought up property and land to develop homes and sell them to draw in targeted demographics. And now even in 2021, a development of homes are rented out at over $1,500 per month. Well, let me tell you about my personal experience with a revitalization that isn't taken into consideration the people of color that vested in these 4 urban communities for over 60 years. In July of 2021, my husband was leaving home. He went around the corner. A neighbor flagged him down. He pulled over. The neighbor was talking to him through the window. The neighbor was concerned that he's going to lose his property. And so my husband is telling him, all you need to do is pay your taxes. Outside of the driver's door, there's a scream. And the lady is looking at my husband and she says, "You look suspicious. You're making me uncomfortable. I want you to leave." This white couple moved into the community in July of 2021. They're in their 30s. She goes back to the back of my husband's car and she writes down the license plate and she says, "I'm getting ready to call the police." My husband said, "Call the police because you look suspicious. I've been here 30 years and I've never seen you."
That's right. You're 3 minutes ago.
Just briefly. The black guy that's talking to my husband is getting annoyed. and he's ready to go because he's really fearful of what the police might do when he comes. The lady's husband comes out and he tells her, let me know what's going on. My husband explains everything. But anyway, what I want to say is that let's go back to revitalization and the drive to bring a new demographic into the neighborhood through form-based codes. Have you considered that through revitalization,
Ma'am, time is up.
that people that have historically been here in this neighborhood for years will have the police called on them, and we'll be back to an area of being marginalized and left to the side again? Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Is there another member of the, any other member of the audience that would like to speak on any of the agenda items at this time before we move to consent agenda? Yeah? You can come right on up and give your name, address, and 3 minutes of comment.
All right, my name is Mary Ann Day, and I'm here as a spokesman for the residents for the Jackson Hill Village. And we're not on the agenda, but I wish that you would consider putting us on the agenda, because as residents, we are running into a very bad and stiff problem there.
Okay.
Yes. We understand that the developers here allow others to come in and build, and they have bought up a lot of property. I realize that we accept changes, we even accept the rent going up, but the fact no one is ever in that office, they keep on changing different items, and we want to know what's going on.
And this is about your
Yes,
your
we have.
housing complex?
Yes.
Okay, but I have to cut you off here, but
I didn't know if it was the right time for me to come up.
but can you leave your name and contact information?
Yes.
We do have. Okay.
Yes.
We'll take this. We'll figure out the best staffer to contact you. And
All right.
to go through that information.
Yeah, inspection issues also.
All right, but because it's not a part
Okay.
of the agenda item,
All right.
We'll have to follow up later.
No problem. I
Okay.
didn't know whether to come up now or whether you would call me up with the paper or what.
Right? Yeah, I would have at the end of the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
You still
Ms.
can.
Okay. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the audience that would like to address any of the agenda items at this point? If not, we move on to a consent agenda. Commissioners, you have received the consent agenda and have had an opportunity to review the items. Are there any items you wish to have removed for further consideration? Commissioner Renzema-Sabinga.
Items B and F.
Are there any other items you wish to have removed, Commissioners, for further consideration? Commissioner Ramsey.
Item I.
Item I, sorry.
Got item I. Okay, all right. If there's no others, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Commissioner German.
Yes, I move to accept this consent agenda minus item B, F, and I.
Support.
It's been moved by Commissioner German, supported by the Vice Mayor to accept the consent agenda as presented minus item B, F, and I. Any discussion? Not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Renzema-Sabinga,
Yes.
Mayor Gallren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Commissioner Renzema-Sabinga, item B.
I move to accept the development agreement as presented related to Adelaide Point and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Renzema-Sabinga, second by the Vice Mayor, to accept the development agreement as presented and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign. Good evening, Mr. Ekholm. We have some additional information.
Yeah, so as you'll recall, good evening, everybody. As you'll recall, during the work session, we had our kind of 95 to 99% final draft in there for us to walk through and for you guys to ask questions on. You guys asked several good questions. What you have before you is the final draft. There was only really, there was some language added, mostly kind of language related to schedule and milestones, but the only substantive piece that was removed was there was at one point in here a long-term lease that would have included a monthly or quarterly lease payment from the developer for the lift well. We decided to remove that in the event because it is possible that that lift well could eventually revert back to the city. And what we did instead is we added a monetary value to the parks improvements that need to be made to the three peninsulas, to the two private peninsulas, and then to the city's peninsula at Hartshorn Marina at a value of $1.2 million. So it's actually codifies more lucrative terms for the city because we're giving up something along the lines of like $26,000 a year, which was originally designed to replace revenue lost from those boat slips in the small boat basin. But, you know, candidly, they've sustained a lot of damage over the last couple of years of high water and would cost us a significant sum of money to get back active again, even if we were planning to reuse them. So this was a more lucrative set of terms for us. So we did remove that lease, quarterly lease language, and we did codify the $1.2 million improvements into the development agreement terms as well. Then the other thing I really just wanted to walk through is to walk through an understanding of the intent to take out bonds for public improvements for this project, because it's a substantial project with a substantial amount of public investment being made. And just want to make sure everybody had absolute clarity before I asked for a vote tonight. So want people to understand that, you know, there's roughly $10 million of improvements to both Western Avenue and new roads, water, sewer, and the lift well, as well as the 3-axle boat ramp that would be installed to serve this new marina and the dry rack storage operations at Hartshorn Marina, adjacent to Hartshorn Marina, and then also to serve the new housing units and the restaurant and 275 slip marina for parking and access. So given that, I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that we would be, over the next several months pursuing those financing options and bringing, you know, the best available financing options to you for your consideration at a later time. I also want to make sure that it's clear that we do have a consent special assessment that the developer has agreed to in the amount of $1 million in the event that that developer has not constructed the 275 slip marina, the multi-use building, which would include the restaurant, boat retail, marina services, and also the first 50-unit condo complex by 2026. At that point in time, that special assessment becomes enforceable, and by that point, if he has built all that stuff, then we should have more than enough money coming into the TIF to repay that bond debt. So that's kind of the reason we structured it that way. But from a technical standpoint, I want to make it clear that this is not a completely secured public financing. Like, we will have bond debt obligation. I want to make that clear. It is a what we would consider a favorable development agreement. It's mutually favorable. Our attorneys, both John Schreier and Chris Kelly in the back over there with Parmenter, have spent a lot of time and energy with me and other staff to put this document together. We do feel comfortable with it, but I wanted to just put that out there in a public meeting that this does incur public debt in exchange for a large amount of private investment. With that, I would take any final questions before we ask for the vote.
Commissioners, any questions on this item that we have been expecting to come back before us for finalization?
There'd be no change in the milestones if you mentioned, I think it was 4, marina, multi-use, first residential, maybe it was only 3. You couldn't change those. Those are the definite first 4. You couldn't say, well, we're going to do 2 residential buildings and not something else.
That would require a renegotiation of the terms. So if the developer came to us and said, hey, you know, I've had 100 reservations, I need to build 2 condo buildings, and that'll get you enough TIF revenue, I want to change the terms, that would be something we would have to amend and then come back for approval.
Okay.
That would exceed the scope of a change order, in my opinion. I'm sure the attorney probably agrees with me. So yeah, we would come and we would open the agreement back up and bring it back.
Okay. And just one more question. I think a commissioner asked it about the city's borrowing capacity, but this doesn't exceed that. So if we would bond for this project, we're within our threshold for, is it general obligation bonds?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. I did send an email to you earlier at the request of a commissioner to just go through that, and just for the public's edification. So municipalities in Michigan, for what's called general obligation bonds or just general public loans from finance authorities and banks, we're restricted to a total of not to exceed 10% of the total taxable value in the city, or the assessed value. For the city of Muskegon, the total assessed value is somewhere around $615 million, so that takes us just over $61 million that we can bond for general obligation. And yeah, we're sitting right now at about $29.6 million. 19.25 of that is the convention center. And so, yeah, we would be well within our general obligation percentage. The other thing to consider is that, you know, and this is something I neglected to include in that email, so I do want to go over it quickly. In the event that we specifically were to do all capital improvement bonds, which are a different financing vehicle, the state has a different law, of course, which is 5% of the state equalized value. So we're closer to that number than we are to the GO number, but we're still okay on either of them. And then we anticipate that some of this financing could be done through what's called a revenue bond vehicle, where we would back it with water sewer revenues from new users, and that does not count against our borrowing limit. So a short answer to that, to sum up that long answer, is we are well within the borrowing limits for this project.
Great, thank you, Jake.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Actually, that was the question I was going to ask. Following the email you sent out, Mr. Echols. But it's a public debt, and that's the thing that concerns me for a project such as this. And the public is actually, the taxpayers will be picking up the tab pretty much for this project if we access those bonds.
Specifically that taxpayer. So like the
Okay,
way we've
just that taxpayer.
the way we've
Okay.
structured the agreement is through brownfield TIF. So all the new taxable values that are created on the property are what goes towards paying our bond debt. So as he builds buildings and makes taxable improvements to existing buildings, those tax revenues, not only our millage, but with the local only brownfield, we get the counties and other non-school debt millages. And so we collect all the tax revenue that building produces, more or less, until we're paid back in full, and then all the other taxing authorities start to get their millages.
Okay, so citizens and residents of City of Muskegon, taxpayers, will not incur any of the taxes or anything.
Not unless there's a substantial default by the developer.
Okay.
And that was that risk that I was making sure to make clear to you prior to. I mean, none of these development agreements are completely secured. There is risk anytime we take on any public exchange of public infrastructure for private development.
And the contingency. Oh, okay.
I was saying, and not to complicate things, it is a condo building, so there could be 50 different condo owners in there that step in.
There will be. Yep.
That step in, and they would all, the taxes paid on that property would go to this too. So there could be different individual property owners that are paying in, but they would be on that property.
Yeah. So no threat to the public, though. That's what I want to make sure.
Yeah,
I'm quite sure, like you said, it is a risk.
A well-mitigated threat
Yeah,
to the public,
right,
yeah,
okay,
is
right.
how I would define it, just for the sake of transparency.
Yeah.
Risk to the public, yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners? If not, roll call, please.
Mayor Gallron,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item F, Commissioner Rinsma-Savinga.
I move to reject the local officers compensation commission recommendation for a salary increase for the mayor and city commissioners.
Support.
It's been moved by Commissioner Rinsma-Savinga, supported by Commissioner Ramsey, to reject the committee recommendation for a salary increase for the mayor and city commissioners. Commissioner Rinsma-Savinga.
Yeah, I don't think there's no staff person or anything about this. This is just this is just primarily a city commission decision. I understand that the local officers committee met and made this recommendation. I guess I just feel at this time it's not a good time to have a raise for the mayor or the city commission, and it does take a lot of time, but but it's something kind of above and beyond. And so that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Any other comments on this item, Commissioner Ramsey?
Yeah. So I tend to agree that it, and I'm just going to speak honestly and candidly, please forgive me. I know that's new for me. I think that the time of year we are, being in an election year and all the things that are currently happening within our community, which is very close knit, I would invite the local officers compensation committee to meet in the first part of the year so that it doesn't look like those of us that are sitting up here now are trying to fill our pockets with anything more.
Thank you. Any other comment or input on this item, Commissioner German?
Yes. Actually, looking at this and actually serving on this local officers compensation commission before and being vice chair of it and president in the past before I became a commissioner. I understand the logistics of it, and I understand the politics of it also. When a commissioner is actually running for office, they usually step up and say, oh, okay, we're going to reject this for political moves. And it's happened. I've seen it happen for 10 years. So we did get an email from our city manager about comparisons of other officers or commissioners, elected officials in neighboring municipalities. So I just find it an odd time for one of our commissioners to bring this to the table when we've always respected the decisions and recommendations of other committee members. So,
Vice Mayor?
I kind of agree with Commissioner German in the sense of it's and with Commissioner
Ramsey.
Ramsey.
I don't know if we've met before. I have a little plaque up there.
Because of I can't see it. I can't see it. But because of the time that it comes, it's a bad time because you have commissioners that's running for office, and you don't want people to think that you here just for the money. But trust me, even with this increase, it's no money.
no.
It's like gas money, maybe, but if you're doing your job, you're not even getting your full tank full. You're not even getting your tank full.
No.
So, I mean, I'm willing to go whichever way the commission wants to go. But I think that when we sit up here and we do our jobs, and you try to get to different places, different events, different commission meetings, back and forth up here, $50 a month is not that much of a raise at all. So, but I mean, it's appreciative to whatever that committee seems fit for us to have, and that's my 2-piece on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Except for one, which somehow this was before everybody else's time, because the topic got away from us on a calendar and it kind of just slid in. I've traditionally voted no, not as a political thing. It's just I believe in the voluntary nature of the position. So it's just a continued tradition of mine and a philosophy of mine that I have not voted for increases over the past 20 years that I've sat on the commission. So that's my perspective. This is a voluntary position, whether or not we were getting anything more than mileage or training and conference compensation. It wouldn't matter to me, but that's my personal position. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, there's just one thing that maybe I can say. So I think by statute, they meet in the odd year. So it'll always, as long as we're having elections in odd years, it will always happen before somebody's getting elected. So we should just probably expect that. But I will check and see if maybe it doesn't have to be in October of that year, and if it maybe is in March or February before people pull petitions or anything, before anything is really known. That probably would take maybe some of the concern of politics out of it. So I'll look into that and see if maybe starting in, what would that be, 2023, maybe we do it in the spring instead of in the fall.
Of course, it's kind of hard for anything we do not to be called politics due to the fact that everybody calls us politicians. But hey, we work around that. Commissioner German?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was going to suggest that maybe, I guess that would have to go through this charter or something like that.
So I think the statute says odd years, like the state statute. Everybody does them in odd years.
Right.
And I think it's mostly because a lot of charters set the wages for commissioners, and then it was set in like 1970 something, right? And then so there's no way to really change it. I think the state went through and helped everybody out and said, instead of everybody trying to vote to change their charter over and over again every so many years, let's give you the option to have a local officers compensation committee. It'll meet in the odd years and it'll make a recommendation to the city commission.
Right.
And you don't have to take action on it, like it says in here. If it didn't come, if nobody went out of their way to vote it down or reject it, it would automatically, like it doesn't. It's not something that the commission has to vote into place. It's the officers compensation committee's recommendation goes into place unless you turn it down.
And just to follow up on that, as Vice Mayor stated, commissioners do a lot, and we serve our city as public servants, and it's I guess you can't trade time for money, and everybody up here does put in a lot of time. So if it goes either way, I'm fine with it. So I'm fine. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramsey?
In closing, I am just very aware of the spin that this could have, and several of our colleagues that are here now that we respect and work with every day are a part of this race, and I want to make sure that they are not affected adversely. That is my only concern, and I will side with the rest of the bench.
Well, as we have a motion and a second on the floor, everybody's going to have to vote. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gowron,
And remember, the motion is to reject. So, yes to reject, no to reject the rejection.
Just yes.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
No.
Commissioner Ramsey,
No.
Commissioner German,
No.
Commissioner Pacifica.
Yes.
Motion fails.
And you want to clarify? No. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Item I, then. Commissioner Ramsey, correct?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Who can come up to speak about this from staff?
You need a motion first?
Oh, I motion to. Where's my motion, Ann?
To approve the service contract with Blue Point LLC.
I motion to approve the service contract with Blue Point LLC.
Point Blue. Point Blue.
Point Blue LLC.
Support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then moved by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Rinsma-Savinga to approve the service contract with Point Blue LLC. And who will be from staff is leading out on this?
Oh, Jacob.
And that is Mr. Francis.
Saved by the bell, Mr. Ekholm.
Talking about the critical dune permits?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the great company we worked with, Prism, has disbanded. They formed two separate companies, and we are going to go with Point Blue.
So I have a couple very honest questions that were asked of me, and I just want you to answer them on the magic screen so that our neighbors know what's going on with the situation. So the concern that was shared with me is that that we suffered some violations under Prism Engineering. I don't know if that is true or not. It was before my time. I'm just telling you what I was told, and I want to make sure that it's addressed. That there may have been some violations to our critical dune status under Prism Engineering. And if that is true, how have we mitigated that situation? And how does it affect our choice to choose Point Blue to do the dune applications moving forward?
We are current with all of our permits. We've been investigated sometimes. The state likes to do that. We got audited probably about 3 months ago, and we still have not heard a word of the findings on that. So we believe Prism's doing a great job, or did a great job, and we have just as much faith in Point Blue as well.
So, yes or no, for my final question, we are not currently under any penalization or in any violation of contracts as far as our dunes go from the result of working with Prism.
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Franzik.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioners, for Mr. Franzik? Mr. German?
Yes, if Mr. Francis can just, I know this is about a contract enforcement, but so actually, what is the intent out there at the critical dune?
Well, we have areas in the city that are established as critical dunes as part of the Critical Dune Act of 1989. So any type of development or even minor additions to a home like stairways or decks all have to meet that ordinance. So the state used to review those, but the original intent was to have local municipalities enforce them. So that's what we did a few years ago, and we took back control. And now anytime anybody has to do anything in a critical dune, just like they did before, now instead of going through the state, they go through us, and we use these contractors, and we've been very pleased with the outcome. We've found that it costs the applicants less money, and they get the applications turned around a lot quicker.
And that does come in front of the zoning committee board and stuff, right?
No, it does not.
It doesn't. So who signs off on that?
The consultants write us a letter verifying that it meets the intent of the ordinance, and then I write the approval letters.
Okay.
We have to meet all conditions, and we cannot exceed any conditions or do anything different than the state of Michigan and the law as it stands.
All in compliance.
All in compliance. Okay. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gallren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Mississippiga.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to public hearings. Item A, please. May we have this read out?
Brownfield Plan Amendment Public Hearing, Harbor 31 LLC Trilogy Senior Housing Redevelopment Project, 60 Viridian Drive. This is to hold a public hearing on the request for a Brownfield Plan Amendment to Harbor 31 LLC Trilogy Senior Housing Redevelopment Project and to consider the attached resolution. The recommended motion is to close the public hearing and approve the Brownfield Plan Amendment for Harbor 31 LLC Trilogy Senior Housing Redevelopment Project at Harbor 31 at 60 Viridian Drive with the attached resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Thank you. Mr. Wills, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for the opportunity to speak this evening. As the clerk had mentioned, Harbor 31 LLC is submitted a Brownfield Plan Amendment. In May, the commission had approved on another portion of the site, Viridian Shores at Harbor 31 project. Another portion of that site. Tonight, for your consideration, we have a Trilogy Senior Housing Redevelopment Project on a 5-acre parcel of that site. And as the public may know, it is this parcel, as well as the overall parcel, is a former Teledyne Continental Motors industrial facility. Essentially, the Trilogy Senior Housing Redevelopment Project would reflect a 63,000 square foot, multi-story, 118-unit senior living building. The planned unit development site was approved by the commission in January. The eligible costs under this particular plan would reflect almost $4.5 million, $4.378 million. The local only eligible Eagle eligible cost would reflect a little over $920,000. The initial capture for phase one is estimated at $598,000 over the 27-year period. This would commence at 2025 after the sunset of the smart zone tax abatement that exists on the site. The plan amendment also assumes approximately 3 years of additional capture of tax increment revenues that would be deposited into the local brownfield revolving fund. The plan includes a request for 4% interest for accrued and unreimbursed eligible activities. And the Commission also may be aware that the city staff, as well as other community partners, including the representatives of the developer, were successful in securing a recent state enhancement grant for a little over $2.3 million that I actually would defer to the developer on site improvements that would be made as use of those $8, but we're encouraged that those dollars can be used in a good, positive way. So with that, I could either defer to Director Ekholm, who's been the point person on this project, as well as representatives of the developer, or the brownfield consultant.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Wills at this point? And then we can follow up with Mr. Ekholm as needed. Commissioners? Commissioner Renzo.
So with the brownfield, there's like the order of who gets repaid or whatever, right? So how would this one work?
This would be a local only, and the city would be.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Wills? Any desire to for Mr. Ekholm? Is there anything else that you feel you need to address on this? I know that we've been working through this process for quite a while. Mr. German?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the developer if he's here also,
Okay.
and find out how the project's coming along. Yeah.
All right.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
And welcome again. And if as you make your way, just be prepared to give name, address, and I believe the commissioner would just like a thumbnail sketch of the scope of the project and how things
Yeah,
proceed.
thank you very much for your time tonight, and happy to answer any questions you have. My name is Mike Hausman. I represent Harbor 31 LLC, which is the master developer of the old Teledyne site, or what's left of it. And what we're here tonight for is to hopefully expand that brownfield designation over to the 5 acres on the Trilogy site. And I have with me Peter Massey. He drove up from Kentucky today, and he represents the real estate division for Trilogy Health Services. We are this close to being able to use that grant, and probably 2 months from getting our Eagle approval, so we can start modifying the wetlands, which allow them to start building. And briefly, if Peter, you want to just address real quickly how what Trilogy is poised to do, where they're at in their design, and who they are a little bit. They bring a lot of tax into the city. So
Very good. Well, good evening, and I welcome you to Muskegon.
Thank you. As Mike mentioned, Peter Massey, 303 North Hurstbourne Parkway, Louisville, Kentucky. What we're planning on developing in Muskegon is our two-story senior housing building that will have independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing under the same roof. This is what we refer to as our village center. We've recently opened 2 in Grand Rapids, but we have over 125 within our portfolio across Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. This project will be roughly a $20 million project when it's done. It will create 125 plus or minus jobs. Traditionally, about 70 to 75% of those are full-time. That's a whole range of everything from clinical care to dining services to maintenance and kind of anything in between there. So we're excited about not only coming to Muskegon, but the location that Mike and Harbor 31 have picked out. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have about Trilogy or the project. And
Okay. Any
just a follow-up there. Yes, and thank you for being here and explaining that. You did say a $20 million project, creating jobs, and that's really essential to the city of Muskegon. I thank you for looking at this side of the city and wanting to develop here. As being as business friendly, I'm also a equal opportunity advocate as well. And as far as local workers, equal opportunities, do you fall within those standings?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. No, we've one thing that Trilogy prides ourselves on. We have over 16,000 employees. We don't use any third-party staffing agencies, so everybody that's employed or is going to be caring for the residents at our facility is a Trilogy employee. We definitely follow all equal opportunity employee and practices. We have very good benefits for everybody that's employed there. Everything from free health care to reimbursement of college tuition and kind of everything between and continuing education. So because we do not use any outside agencies for staffing, we use only Trilogy employees. We want to make sure we continue to grow our own. Certainly within a community like Muskegon, the employees and the residents will be members of the community as well.
Okay, and thank you. I'd just like to say about 40 years ago, being an 18-year-old, I actually participated. That was one of my first jobs, is doing some demolition on that previous site there. So it's good to see something now coming to fruition. So I kind of set the ground for you there.
There you go.
Ahead of my time.
And if you find the wallet he lost.
Hey.
Yeah, right.
And sunglasses.
Okay. Anything else for the gentleman? Okay. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Are there any members of the audience that would like to make public comment on the Brownfield Plan amendment public hearing, or on this public hearing for Harbor 31 LLC Trilogy Senior Housing Redevelopment Project at 60 Meridian Drive? Then I will entertain a motion to close and follow through. Commissioner Insma.
I move to close the public hearing and approve the Brownfield Plan Amendment for Harbor 31 LLC Trilogy Senior Housing Redevelopment Project at Harbor 31 at 60 Meridian Drive with the attached resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Support. Been moved by Commissioner Insma, supported by the Vice Mayor to close the public hearing and approve the Brownfield Plan Amendment for Harbor 31 LLC, referencing Trilogy Senior Housing. Any further comments or observations before we go to vote? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica,
Yes.
Mayor Gowen,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to item B under public hearings. Maybe we have this read out, please.
Public hearing on Adelaide Point Project Brownfield Plan Amendment 1148 and 1204 West Western. This is a request to hold a public hearing on the request for a Brownfield Plan Amendment for Adelaide Point Q0ZB LLC Adelaide Point Project and to consider the attached resolution. The recommended motion is to close the public hearing and approve the Brownfield Plan Amendment for the Adelaide Point Project at 1148 and 1204 Western Avenue with the attached resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Mr. Wills, you rejoin us once again.
Thank you. I will back clean up on this wonderful project with your approval, hopefully. Yes, we are here on behalf of Adelaide Point QOZB LLC. In July, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority took testimony on this particular Brownfield Plan Amendment request. It was decided to be delayed over the summer for Director Ekholm and the developer to solve some of their public infrastructure issues. And so on October 12th, the BRA had approved, and we're the essentially the new roadways reconfiguration of western East Basin Wall launch well do reflect the total city bond eligible costs of $12.6 million. Or the eligible costs have been increased over the summer to $54.1 million. Local only Eagle eligible costs now reflect $3.25 million. The updated initial capture for phase one is estimated at $915,000 over this 30-year course of the plan. The Cost of the eligible activities included in the plan will be paid for by the city and developer, as Bacon mentioned before. The city and developer would seek reimbursement for the activity costs. Capture of the tax increment revenues for city reimbursement is anticipated to commence in 2023 and end in 2029, so we're first in line. That the developer reimbursement would follow with an estimated start date of 20 course of this 30-year plan. There is a request for 5% interest of all accrued and unreimbursed eligible activities, included a $10,000 administrative fee CRA. So again, Director Ekholm and/or the developer speak specifically to questions along with their consultant, Fishbeck.
Any questions for Mr. Wills while we have him available? I know that we've had ongoing conversations leading up to this point. We've had all the building blocks, set before us. Our prior meetings on the project. Do you need any clarifications now that we're ready to pull the trigger? The only thing we were waiting for was that this was going to the Brownfield board, and they've approved, and now it's here for our concurrence. Anything for staff? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this item as public hearing? Adelaide Point Project Brownfield Plan Amendment, 1148 and 1204 West Western Avenue. If not, I'd entertain a motion to close and follow through.
I motion to close the public hearing and approve the Brownfield Plan Amendment for the Adelaide project at 1148 and 1204 West Western Avenue with the resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Support. Been moved by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Vincent Saving, to close the public hearing and approve the Brownfield Plan Amendment for Adelaide Point Project 1148 and 1204 West Western Avenue with the resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign. Any additional observations or questions on this before we go to vote? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Vincent
Yes.
Mayor Gallren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to public hearings on item C. May we have this read out, please?
Establishment of an obsolete property district, 221 West Webster Avenue. Pursuant to Public Act 146 of the Michigan Public Acts of 2000, 221 West Webster LLC and Western Land Company LLC, divisions of Core Development Corporation, have requested the establishment of an obsolete property district for the property at 221 West Webster Avenue. The establishment of the obsolete property district would allow them to apply for an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate.
Mr. Franzik.
Staff recommendation is to approve the request to establish an obsolete property district at 221 West Webster Avenue.
So we have a potentially very exciting item before us that would take a empty, unused part of our skyline and make it alive again, eh?
Yeah, one of our biggest buildings downtown needs a little bit of a boost for this project, so the obsolete property rehabilitation certificate would be the best one to do that. In order to do that, we need to create the district first. So this is the first of two steps.
Good. And for any of us of a certain age, we're referring to the, in our lifetime, the Lumberman's Bank Tower on Webster after it decamped from Western Avenue when I was a little boy. Questions for Mr. Franzik at this point? Commissioner?
How long has it been vacant?
At least a couple years now. Huntington's been out of there, but a majority of the building has been vacant for a decade or two, I would say. Huntington was the last tenant in there for quite some time, and they only occupied the first 2 floors.
Thank you. Commissioner German?
So the intention for the project and in this establishment for obsolete property, what are we looking at? Housing, retail, commercial? What
It's going to be mixed-use development, so there's potential for some retail, office, and residential.
Okay.
About a $6 million investment.
And that's all market rate apartments, or?
I believe so, but I asked the developer to speak on that. They are in the house tonight. Questions for them?
I'd like to hear from the developer.
I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the developer of the project at 221 West Webster Avenue would like to join us, I just need your address and your position, and then we'll throw stuff at you.
Good evening. Brian Bench. I'm with Core Realty Partners and Core Development, 794 Pine Street here downtown. Yeah, as Mike said, we're planning a mixed-use development with street retail on the first level. The second floor will be office, and we plan to occupy that ourselves, Core Realty Partners. We'll occupy second floor, and then the upper floors will be market rate apartments.
Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Ramsey, were you beginning to raise your red pen?
Yeah, but I don't have a question.
Oh, okay.
I just have a celebratory statement. I want to thank you guys for really diving in headfirst to this project, because I think that you guys are really poised to show the rest of our community what a project like this can look like when it's done effectively and how it actually serves the community as all. We're not tearing down a building. We're not putting up a new building. We're using something that has been around for as long as I have. And I appreciate that. And so thank you and the rest of your team for jumping in and being a part of it, and for really showing what something that truly is mixed use is, and how valuable it can be to a place like downtown, so that as we look in our other business, of course, we can look at saving some of those buildings there and doing something very simple.
I appreciate that. We're excited about it. We're getting some pretty good traction already as far as potential retail tenants for that first level. And yeah, we're looking forward to occupying the building ourselves, and I think it's going to be a great addition. We're excited about it.
So am I.
How about a grocery store?
Send them our way. We'll talk to them.
Right. We need a little more population downtown for them to continue to look at us, and that's the truth.
Just one more question. Sure. Yes, thank you, Mayor. And just like I asked the developer before, sir, when it comes to equal opportunities, compliance, opportunity to hire local, minority contractors, where are you at on that? Are you in compliance with that?
Right, sure. Certainly, I appreciate that. Just as we have with our other projects downtown here, we've always hired local. We will continue to do that. That's definitely our plan.
Yeah, prevailing wages and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Yeah. Reason I asked that because the governor just reinstated, recommendations for state projects or whatever for prevailing wages.
Did you say prevailing wages?
Prevailing wages, yeah. Fair wages.
Fair wages, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't control their wages, but we certainly hire local contractors.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Bench? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public that would like to make public comment on the establishment of an obsolete property district for 221 West Webster Avenue? Commissioner?
Seeing none, I move to close the public hearing and approve the request to establish an obsolete property district at 221 West Webster Avenue.
Support. Then moved by Commissioner Ensign Savinga, supported by the Vice Mayor, to close the public hearing and to approve the request to establish an obsolete property district at 221 West Webster. Any additional comments or questions before we go to vote? Roll call, please.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica?
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And in tandem to this is the actual issuance of an obsolete property certificate. Item D, please. May we have it read out?
Summary request pursuant to Public Act 146 of the Michigan Public Acts of 2000, 221 West Webster LLC and Western Land Company LLC Division of Core Development have requested the issuance of an obsolete property certificate for their property located at 221 West Webster Avenue. Total capital investment for this project is estimated to be $6 million. Staff recommendation to approve the request to establish an obsolete property certificate for a length of 8 years with no extensions granted.
Anything additional, sir?
Well, 12 years is the maximum that can be granted. That's what the applicant requested. Our tax abatement committee did meet and reviewed this with our scoring tool from a tax abatement policy, and they scored a total points which would get them 8 years, and we did share that with the developer, and they seemed to be okay with that.
Okay, very good. Questions for Mr. Franza? Any comments from the public on this public hearing item of the actual issuance of the obsolete property certificate for a period of 8 years on the project? Then I entertain a motion for.
I move to close the public hearing and to approve the request to establish an obsolete property certificate for a length of 8 years with no extensions granted.
Support.
It's been moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner Rinzema Savinga to approve the request to establish an obsolete property certificate for a length of 8 years with no extensions granted, and having closed the public hearing. Okay. Anything additional, Commissioners, before we go to vote? Sir.
Yeah, just a comment. So I know we had quite a lengthy discussion the last time we used our new tax abatement policy. So this time it seems like we're not having that lengthy discussion. So I think we should continue to evaluate how that's going. But I think it's great that we implemented that and that we're using that committee to kind of vet these, and we have, standards or kind of things, that we put out that we want people to comply with when they get the incentives. So, and just always to note that you don't really get an incentive unless you invest in improve the taxable value. So these aren't this isn't just giving money to anybody. This is a reduction in the increased taxable value, and we do that when we meet the certain requirements. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Rinzema Savinga?
Yes.
Mayor Gallred?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to item E. May we have this read out, please?
Inclusive Zoning Manager's Office. Summary request. Staff is presenting on the proposed expansion of inclusive zoning to additional neighborhoods in a continued effort to educate the public. Comments from the public and commissioners will be used to finalize the request to rezone for an eventual vote in November. Staff recommendation, items presented as information only.
Thank you. Good evening, Deputy Manager Mike Sell.
Hello, how are you all?
Good, thank you.
Good to be here. So, we've been talking about expanding our form-based code zoning into other neighborhoods for many months. And the last time that I presented to all of you, you were appreciative of the presentation that I gave and thought that it would be helpful for more people, the public, to be able to hear a similar presentation. So you asked staff to educate more people. And so we put together a presentation. I actually narrated it. We included it on our website. We shared it on social media. We emailed it to our neighborhood associations. We did also offer to hold an in-person meeting if the neighborhood associations were interested. There were 3 neighborhood associations that reached out to me asking for that public meeting. I was able to get the neighborhoods that were interested to agree to all come together at one location to do that instead of replicating that numerous times. So that meeting was held just about a week ago. I have been gathering comments. We also have an email address that is showing on our website so that people can just email comments at any time. They can certainly call us as well. So I've been capturing the comments, and I gave you an update so far. And then I plan to add to that document from what we hear tonight. And I will look for direction from all of you for what needs to be done before we bring something to you for action.
Okay.
So tonight I thought that I would just play the video that we had posted on our website so everybody could see that if they haven't yet. And then I can answer any questions that you have and then let you get comments from the public.
Thank you.
Thank you for your interest in the City of Muskegon's zoning. This presentation is meant to provide information on the city's goal to expand inclusive zoning into more neighborhoods. The city's leadership strongly believes that high-quality, stable housing for all income levels is central to the health and well-being of our city. Let's start with the plan. In 2015, the city adopted a new kind of zoning that focuses more on the physical form of buildings than on use of a property. At that time, the new zoning applied to the downtown area, and over time it has been expanded into the Nelson neighborhood and portions of the Lakeside neighborhood. We have seen significant revitalization in the Nelson neighborhood and want to continue the momentum into the Angel, Jackson Hill, Nims, and McLaughlin neighborhoods, where there is an abundance of vacant land available for redevelopment. City leadership supports development that is inclusive and offers more opportunity to build generational wealth. Our long-term goal is to address residential zoning across our entire city. For our city to prosper, it is imperative that all people and all neighborhoods have housing to meet all income levels. Inclusive zoning offers a method to meet some of our most desired goals. It offers a variety of housing choices that fit into the surrounding neighborhood and provide housing options for every family size and for those with disabilities. This zoning type has a positive impact on streets where pedestrians and bicycles feel safe, motorized vehicles continue to move efficiently, and our neighborhood main streets are vibrant social and commercial centers that serve the needs of the neighbors. What we see with this type of zoning is a connected community where housing choices benefit everyone who already lives in the neighborhood, as well as those who wish to move there. In the following slides, we will discuss each of these benefits in more detail. Inclusive zoning offers housing choices for people of all income levels. The following slides offer examples of the different housing options allowed in this type of zoning. Please keep in mind that the options shown are meant for new construction. This new zoning is very restrictive of converting existing single-family homes into multiple units. A small multiplex building offers affordable or market-rate apartments. A row house offers more living space for those who need it. A duplex can offer more living space and more privacy, with perhaps a small yard for outdoor enjoyment. A detached home provides the most flexibility with more privacy and yard space. Single-family homes will always be a choice in the new inclusive zoning. The addition of a carriage house, which is an apartment on the same property as a single-family home, provides a place for a young adult or grandparent to rent a separate space but remain near to the family unit. These housing types are also referred to as accessory dwelling units. A live workspace is simply an apartment over a shop or office. A significant benefit to inclusive zoning is the ability of a person to live in the same neighborhood as their needs change throughout their lifetime. How wonderful to be able to choose the neighborhood where you want to live, knowing it will have housing choices to fit your needs. The next slides will offer examples of how the different housing types can benefit people at all stages of life. The carriage house or accessory dwelling unit offers an older child a safe place to start life on their own. The young person has more privacy and remains close to the family for help with their needs. Once the young adult is more stable, they can move into an apartment in a small multiplex to be more independent. A young couple who has been able to save for a down payment can purchase a unit in a row house. A family can use the equity built from their time living in a row house as a larger down payment on a single-family detached home with yard space for their children. An older couple who no longer have children living at home can downsize to a duplex. Perhaps they have earned enough from selling the single-family home to purchase the duplex structure, live in one half, and earn income by renting the other half. An aging parent who is unable to be completely independent could move into a carriage house on the property of their adult children. It offers some level of independence to the parent while keeping them close enough for daily assistance. The idea is that a person can choose the neighborhood where they want to live and have housing options that meet their needs throughout their lifetime. No one should have to leave their neighborhood to find housing to fit their needs. Inclusive zoning also offers people options for purchasing and for renting homes. It removes the requirement of a down payment in order to live in any particular neighborhood. Many of us have been in the situation where we preferred or needed to rent. Young people do not often have the means to save enough for a down payment. People moving into a community may want to rent while they get a sense of the neighborhoods and before they make a substantial investment into a home. City staff completed a rental study in 2019, which showed significant demand for more rental units across all price points within our city. The vast majority of units are only available to seniors, leaving younger people and families with few options. Through the study, we also learned that market rate options are able to charge much higher rents than originally expected. While that is good news for our economy, attracting new residents, and funding for future development, we must be sure options are available for the people who already live in Muskegon and those who have low and middle incomes. Inclusive zoning is the best way to offer our residents opportunity to build generational wealth. The next slides offer a few examples of how this type of zoning benefits property owners. Offering a carriage house for rent provides income to help with mortgage payments on the main house. The mortgage can be paid more quickly, which builds equity. When the property is sold, the owner receives much more of the selling price. In a live workspace, the building owner can live above a small shop and operate their business in the same building. They could also rent the shop and use that income to pay the mortgage on the building. This is another way that the investment into the building can build more quickly, and the owner receives the benefit when selling the property. Additional development on currently vacant lots raises property values in the surrounding neighborhood. When a homeowner refinances or sells their property, that additional value increases their buying power. Inclusive zoning provides the options needed for all family types and is especially helpful for multi-generational families who want comfort and privacy while maintaining strong family connections. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, a carriage house offers an option for a family member to reside on the same property and maintain privacy for the person living outside of the main house. A young person can gain some independence while enjoying the safety net of the main family home. A grandparent can maintain privacy and at the same time keep some level of independence that could not be gained at an assisted living facility. A small multiplex offers a family the opportunity to rent or purchase individual units in the same structure. One family could purchase the building and rent to the other family members. This idea could be very helpful for large families, families with grown children just starting out on their own, and aging parents who need the support of their adult children. City leaders want to ensure that any zoning change will protect the residents who already live in our neighborhoods. Our goal is to provide options that serve every stage of life, all income levels, and different sized families. We want these zoning changes to be truly inclusive, creating an environment where all are welcome. The zoning in many of the city's neighborhoods only allows single-family detached homes, and yet many of our residents cannot afford the bank's high down payment requirements or the home and yard maintenance costs of owning a home. Single-family zoning excludes people and supports a prejudice mentality where only certain people who meet specific criteria can call a neighborhood home. It works against our vision of a diverse and inclusive community. Our current zoning creates further disadvantages by lowering birth rates. Couples who cannot afford a mortgage are not likely to start a family. Rental options are lost as homes that were once divided into apartments are converted back to single-family homes. The proposed zoning change protects existing residents in a variety of ways. Various home sizes and configurations offer a mix of price points as well as options to rent or own. Smaller starter homes and larger rental units offer pricing within reach of our current residents. Development of additional housing units increases the city's supply of homes and reduces upward pressure on home prices. The increased choice is more inclusive and supports the city's goal to provide a community for all. All of these benefits offer more opportunities for the people living in our city to build generational wealth. Our current residents earn a wide range of incomes, and it follows that a wide range of home types are needed to support our residents' needs. City leaders are committed to developing and subsidizing workforce housing that includes rental and home ownership options. By changing to inclusive zoning, our goal is to support development of homes that fit our existing neighborhoods and contribute to making them feel more comfortable with walkable commercial districts that support the use of public transit. New housing choices allowed in the new zoning are specifically designed to fit within the existing character of the neighborhood. The goal is to create a blend of housing types built on a comfortable scale. This photo shows row houses, duplexes, and single-family homes built on a reasonable scale, all on the same block. When the focus is on matching the form and scale of the surrounding homes, additional units are created in a way that isn't noticed. This zoning offers guidance to create great places where people want to live, work, and visit. This map shows a typical Muskegon neighborhood where there is already a good mix of home ownership and rental properties. Across the city, 40 to 60% of housing is available for rent. Offering new housing choices honors the existing makeup of our neighborhoods. In our discussions with our neighbors, we have heard concerns about the appearance of our city. We want to take this opportunity to discuss those concerns. Replacing vacant lots with occupied homes brings more people who care for the neighborhood and ward off harmful activities. The presence of more people and on-street parking lead to slower traffic on the streets. Since speeding traffic is more likely on roads with vacant land, developing on those lots will also help address safety concerns. City staff is reviewing alleys to better understand which are being used, where we have opportunities to eliminate them, and which ones should be improved for more frequent use. New rules to guide residents on how to meet our sanitation ordinance have been developed and approved at a recent City Commission meeting. Please note that each of these items is separate from the zoning discussion and are handled through enforcement of city ordinances. Here is the contact information for city departments who can address questions and concerns related to neighborhood appearance. This last set of slides will provide information on how neighborhood density impacts the city's ability to pay for services we provide to residents. Density refers to the number of housing units located within a given area. The more people living within a neighborhood, the higher its density. Here is a typical block structure in a city. The residential lots are laid out in a pattern typical for Muskegon, and the infrastructure to serve those properties is shown as well. Each block includes streets, water and sewer lines, sidewalks, streetlights, and sometimes an alley. Each piece of infrastructure requires a yearly maintenance cost as well as an eventual replacement cost once it reaches the end of its useful life. The total cost per year for one block of infrastructure is shown. If a city block had only one house on it, that house would need to pay enough taxes to cover the cost of all of the infrastructure for the entire block. In Muskegon, an average house pays $372 in property taxes and $800 in utilities per year. It's easy to see that one house cannot support the cost of the services needed for it. As we know, that one house does not pay higher taxes and fees to support the upkeep of the entire block. Instead, the house enjoys the luxury of being subsidized by houses on other blocks and in other neighborhoods with more density to cover the costs of the city infrastructure. It is important to remember that most of the vacant lots in our neighborhoods once had homes on them. The loss of those homes has raised costs everywhere for everyone else. Let's see the impact when a typical block is half full of homes. Using the average house in Muskegon, the 8 properties in this block pay $2,976 in property taxes and $6,400 in utilities and fees. Again, the annual cost for the city to provide the infrastructure is $17,700. The large yards for the houses on this block take up a lot of space and therefore do not support the services needed for them. In this case, these 8 houses enjoy the luxury of being subsidized by other blocks and neighborhoods. Now we can see what happens when the city block has houses built on every lot. The amount of property taxes collected is $5,952, and the amount of utilities and fees is $12,800. And this completely built out block now supports the cost of the infrastructure needed to serve the homes. When we are able to add density to the city block by allowing duplexes to be built on the corners, for example, we now collect enough taxes and fees that we can fund improved services and amenities like parks, trails, streetscaping, and social events in our neighborhoods. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. We are glad you are interested in our city.
Thank you. Commissioners, some of us have had an opportunity to sit in on numerous presentations, this one in particular, at different neighborhood associations and other meetings. Any comments or questions for the Deputy City Manager at this point on this presentation? Commissioner Rinsman-Saving?
I guess I'd just be interested to know. I know that the form-based code has changed and we've made compromises or as we've taken input. So I'd just be interested in the neighborhoods we're talking about now, what things we've learned or what things we've adapted.
I'm not entirely sure I understand. What we're proposing for these neighborhoods is to use the urban residential zoning. Yeah. We do have other zones that we have used. We think that the urban residential fits these neighborhoods the best. Much of Nelson is urban residential, but I'm not sure that all of it is. I feel like some places closer to downtown are like Neighborhood Edge and Main Street and things like that.
Yeah, I guess I'm just talking about that. I know this has been a very long conversation. So the urban residential, I think we've talked about it in Nelson, is probably where most of us remember. So I think that at that point we talked about, limiting the number of units in a multifamily and things like that. So there's been numerous steps as we've listened to folks to hear about the character of neighborhoods and also concerns that the form-based code could bring. So just to point out that there have been some, there's been evolving of the urban residential zoning.
Sure. I believe that it used to allow up to a 6-plex, and now it only allows a 4-plex. Something that isn't mentioned in the video that might be helpful for people to understand too is if somebody, a local developer, somebody from out of town, whoever wants to build something that's got the higher density like a 4-plex, the property for that needs to meet certain criteria. So it's not like every single lot that exists in the city could have a fourplex on it. You have to have alley access. You have the width of the lot has to be a certain dimension. The idea in this kind of zoning is that you build the home types that fit the neighborhood and fit the property.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. German?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. To Deputy Manager myself, good job on the presentation.
Thank you.
I was at quite a few of the meetings and you did an excellent job. And I can say here, you took in the input from the citizens. I know we're not there yet. There's some concerns from constituents and residents, but I think you outlined a lot of the concerns of individuals in the neighborhoods. I think we should reach more because it's still a level of education that needs to be had to some of the residents in these communities. That Angel, McLaughlin, whereas Jackson Hill. I like the fact that when you talked about the character of the neighborhood and the generational wealth, giving neighbors, an option, and everyone the opportunity to be able to live in neighborhoods. That in choice of neighborhoods, I should say. But I had something on here I would like to just kind of share. And when we talked about, and one of the comments I made when we talked about restrictions and outlines of how a form-based code should be conducted, I think there need to be limitations. And I talked about how the height, the number of houses on a lot, which you covered. Also, something written into the form-based code to make sure if this was to move forward, that it complies with form-based code. So the history and historical value won't be taken from that neighborhood, and citizens would probably feel more comfortable. But like I said, we're not there yet, and but I appreciate the presentation and what you're doing. I think you put a lot into it, and I commend you on listening to the public.
Anything else for the Deputy Director? Thank you for your observations, Commissioner. If not, then at this time we'll go to public comment. I know that some people have had an opportunity beforehand speaking to this as an agenda item. But at this time, anyone else that has not made comment on this topic, if you'd like to input. Again, this is informational tonight. Deputy Mike Sell, could we go back to the screen with the contact numbers and just hold that up there in case people had not had an opportunity?
Yes, and keep in mind, this is still on our website. Anybody can access it anytime.
Right, again, so, but for anybody else, these contact numbers for additional input is on the website. There is an opportunity to leave comment there as well, which we will continue to compile. But Mr. Medendorf, did I see that you wanted to come up? Let me just give the Deputy Manager just a minute to, okay, there we go. And but those are great contact numbers to have. We'll leave those up there for a minute so that individuals can record them. Okay, if you want to, just need your name and address, and you have opportunity for 3 minutes of comment.
My name's Dave Medendorp. I live at 2314 Harrison in Muskegon, and I've been selling real estate in Muskegon for 35 years. I wanted to say that I think this form-based zoning is a good thing. Across the country, we're seeing granny flats, we call them, in neighborhoods where people have a carriage house, and their parents will come
to live with the kids, and they might pay cash for the granny flats, or maybe the kids will finance it and build it, but it allows the kids, the parents, to be close to the kids, and might give them a babysitter, or it might give the parents dinner with their family. So I think that's one really good one big benefit. And everything I've seen in Muskegon, I'm not saying I like everything that's been built, but all the neighborhoods have increased in value, and every time a house gets built in a neighborhood that I've seen, it's been good for the value of the neighborhoods, and it's increased the wealth of us people in Muskegon. So just wanted to make a comment for the zoning and the benefits I've seen.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make comment at this time?
My name's Randy Vanderwhite, live at 1577 Clinton Street. I'm still kind of up in the air as to whether I'm in favor of it or not. But interesting, so far when I was at the public hearing at the Planning Commission and also here, everyone I've heard who's spoken in front of it has either been a developer, a renter, or a real estate agent. I've heard from a lot of neighbors' concerns. So I guess gentrification is here and it will continue to come, but I just want to make sure that we keep gentrification with justice. I was reading the report that was commissioned by the Mayor's Office, the Mayor's Institute on City Design, and done with the Muskegon Economic Development input. And just the reminder, it says, as the city can invest equitably in Jackson Hill, and I will add Angel, McLaughlin, and Nims, by ensuring that residents feel recognized and that their concerns are heard. To help the city achieve this, there's some recommendations in 3 phases. So I guess just as the development happens, I guess I just want to make sure that the city continues to hear from the existing residents. And they even talk about in here some anti-displacement policies, one of them being a community coalition that helps assess the community needs and assets. And then it goes on to say that it prioritizes the community and evaluate if plans and proposals give priority to current residents rather than future residents. And I think that's a big fear that people have, is that they're losing their neighborhoods as the development happens. And even in here, they lay out those 3 phases. One phase is immediately actionable. The second one within a year, and the third in 1 to 5 years. And I wonder, how are we doing on phase 1 and phase 2 that they recommend? And phase 3 includes zoning changes. And that's where we're at now. It hasn't been quite a year since this came out. So I guess I just raised the question, how are we doing on 1 and 2 of really helping lift up the identities of those neighborhoods and building on the strengths that already exist there?
Okay, thanks, Randy. And yeah, and we're in those first steps of the process, through the Mayor's Institute right now. But the key is we all talk, because we all live here. We're all impacted. Are there any other members of the audience that would like to speak on this topic? Please.
Good evening. My name is Rashard Thrower from 701 Orchard Avenue. I'm from Muskegon, grew up in Muskegon, Big Red through and through, went to Marquette, Steele, and graduated from Muskegon Big Reds. Right now I work for PNC Bank as an anti-money laundering and bank secrecy act professional. And specifically, I wanted to come back and reinvest in my neighborhood because of what the individuals were speaking about, the gentrification, feeling like they're being outpaced from their neighborhoods. And what I'm proposing at the current moment is about like $11 to $12 million development, about 70 units. Because I didn't want to go through a lot of different excuses or anything of that nature, I want it to be more about action. So me personally, I actually bought a few different plots of land, and I plan to try to redevelop those, and specifically making a few of them designated to like elderly individuals, making it cost efficient, under market rate, and then also just making it more advantageous to the individuals that may be a part of yes, incentivizing them, trying to make sure that it's well-rounded within our community. So while I do understand and I completely empathize with everyone as far as like their adverse outlooks on the situation, I actually support this measure, and just because because I think that this will be beneficial to everyone as a whole. I did go through a brief soliloquy, just like explaining the benefits on the tax form, because a lot of people initially thought that this was going to have an adverse effect towards their taxes. So I tried to explain it to them as far as like the state tax equivalent value compared to the taxable value, because even in the presentation, it really didn't go into the specifics as far as that. But just to even give a quick reiteration of that, state equivalent value and the taxable value, there's a big difference. So you got your taxable value at, let's say if you bought a house at 50,000, 2008, right now it's valued at about 150,000 because of 2021. That situation, you will still be paying the taxable value, which is the lower amount, until you actually sell the home. Now, the person that actually buys the home, they would end up having to pay or deal with the state equivalent value, meaning that you actually get off of a double win. So that's more of a win-win situation. If I'm getting 100,000 in equity and then also I only have to pay 50,000 in taxes off of it, what? Like that's a benefit through and through. So I don't know, like if anybody ever really got into the specifics to explain that to individuals, and I understand that that can come off a little bit crass sometimes. So the way I look at it, I would like to take, like, let's say if you guys, everyone more so like steak. Everybody likes green beans. Everybody likes mac and cheese, but no one wants to eat it off of a garbage can lid. So if you actually redirect them, put it on a plate, serve it on a silver platter, I think a lot of people will be, more appealing to it. So that's how I look at it.
Great point. Hey, thank you. Great seeing you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address this topic before we close the public hearing and go to our new business? Oh, please.
Hello, my name is Maria, and I live at 644 Jackson Avenue. And I wanted to thank her for the presentation that she gave tonight. However, I feel that it doesn't address like 5 key areas, and I think that we really need to explore them more. The 5 key areas was, first of all, the slideshow, as it's presented, doesn't necessarily cater to all the learning styles of that particular community. It's written as something I would have had at some kind of college level class, where it's just kind of all these little bullet points and a few pictures, and different people have different learning styles, and they would and you might be able to tell somebody something, but if they can't visualize it, they may not be able to fully understand what it is you're trying to convey to them, and they wouldn't be able to fully be able to make a sound decision as to how that will affect them as individuals. Also, I thought the slideshow was really biased to the fact that they want to push this through. So it really caters to all the pros and what are perceived as the pros of having this particular zoning. It doesn't address the adverse sides of it, which there are numerous adverse sides of it. The second point, it leaves room for developers to take advantage. We all would like to think that everybody have earnest and really great intentions, but that's not really the case. People come in from different communities. They're not a part of our community. And when I say communities, Muskegon is all these different particular neighborhoods, and whether we like it or not, we all are our family on some level, but these people that come in, they're not a part of this family. They're outsiders. So they don't have a vested interest in what's going on within our community and how it affects us directly. When I think about some of these houses that they're proposing, like these row houses, it reminds me of what was going on, like my great-grandmother talked about in the 1960s. They had all these little rooming houses down south. They call them shotgun houses, where they're right next to each other and they don't have any yard space on either side. The carriage houses or these granny flats, those can be used for any purpose. If somebody builds that, yeah, you would like to say that, oh, we're going to have these single families and there's different things going in, but you don't know if people could use them for Airbnbs. They could use them for all kind of different things. You don't know what they're going to use them for once they're actually there. You can't take them back. you can't like strip ownership from the person. So what are you going to do at that point? In the granny flats, if you really understand like the neighborhoods that you're addressing, granny flats don't necessarily hold as much weight because a lot of people in these particular areas, if they're going to take care of their parents, they put them in their own house. They don't put them in a house above the garage or on their property. They actually put them in their house. These new single family houses, it kind of reminds me, I grew up off of Yuba Street and like on the Erickson area. It was this project that came through. They built up all these houses, but they had subpar foundations and all that. So it was not really good sound houses, and they sat there vacant forever. The third and fourth and fifth, I'm gonna go briefly, is gentrification, the complexion of the neighborhood, and then this all for one mentality. Like we,
I do have to
yeah.
cut you off.
So that's it. So I mean, those are
I'd
all
like
the
to see
points, and I
more of
feel
it.
like that didn't address it, and I feel like we need to do better at reaching these individuals. All right, thank you.
Are there any other individuals that would like to address? And yeah, you can do a follow-up.
Under 113 Slayton. I am concerned as to who decides what's going to be built where. I mean, am I seeing one block that has, like I said before, you know, it has a duplex, maybe the fourplex, a single house, a carriage house? Is this all in one block? And who decides who puts what where? I mean, we've bought our property, we love our home. Does that mean somebody can come in next door and then just build these? Do we have anything to say about it at all? And then when you talk about, who's building them? Are these all developers and then people come in and rent them? But then you talk about single-family homes. So I've got lots of questions. I just wonder who I can address my questions to.
Sure.
Is-
Raise a hand.
And then the more people, the more taxes. I mean,
There-
Okay,
there's-
then I'll get a hold of her because
Okay.
some of this sounds good, but some of it doesn't.
Right.
It really doesn't. It's like, are we just trying to get everybody all together and off property elsewhere and get them all together in a certain area? I don't understand what the meaning of that is, except it brings in more taxes. But there's going to be no, pardon me, well, you're not a person. It just brings in more taxes. But I mean, you would get taxes if somebody lived elsewhere and they had to pay taxes on their lot. It's going to be more if their lot is bigger. So the density, I don't know. I just don't go along with just putting so many people, just like downtown. It's like there's just so much down there. And too many apartments. It's different.
It's going back to a traditional form what we used to have before there was a mall. And
Well, I remember Western Avenue.
yeah, so do I. But there's a first contact.
Okay, I will contact her.
They will help. Not that they'll change your mind or anything.
Yeah.
But they will be able to give you
Informative.
information. And it isn't a matter of cramming people in. It's being flexible as possible. You know, where it makes sense. Where it
Okay.
makes sense.
But who makes that decision?
The form-based code? The form-based code does.
Oh, so we might be moving out of Muskegon then.
No, I don't
Well, I
think
hope
you'd have to worry
not.
about the fact that, you know, I probably on the majority of the lots that would hold it, you're going to see single family, you know.
Single
dwellings.
family.
I really do.
Well, what about in these apartment complexes? Now, if they're government subsidized, then does that mean the government can come in and say, we're going to lock you down because of this pandemic or that pandemic, like Berkshire and Terrace Point?
No, the zoning has nothing. The zoning has nothing.
Okay, just questions I have.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
The zoning is what is possible for, you know, a piece of dirt. You know, what can go there. You know, what's appropriate, and allowing for some flexibility. You know, be it a duplex or a granny flat behind your house above your garage. Okay. Hi.
Hi, Trinell Scott, actually 3029 Maffett, the city of Muskegon Heights, but we still own property in the city of Muskegon. So my question is, during her presentation, she showed how all the different houses with like housing projects, single family, the granny flats and all of that. My concern is with the Angel neighborhood, because that's where our property lies, within the Angel neighborhood. I might want to move back to that one day. So how is it determined, like, I kind of heard you guys, I don't know, you weren't talking to the audience, you were speaking amongst yourselves, but how is it determined, like, what type of housing is going to go into that area? Because like the young lady said before, the presentation talked about all of the pros, but not the cons that comes with gentrification, and what's going on within the city of Muskegon. And where I see where you all want to go, and I'm not in total agreement with all of it, because with gentrification comes displacement. And when you talk about fair housing and the income levels that the residents in the Angel neighborhood and the Jackson neighborhood, what their income levels are, and the type of housing that some of these people are proposing to build, and the cost, how is it going to affect the residents that's currently there? And so I have a million questions. And so, okay, I'm gonna get one of her cards. But I can say that this meeting was very informative for me, simply because I haven't been to a City of Muskegon Commissioners meeting in a long time. So you guys gonna see some more of me.
And we'd love to see you, and I'd love to hear from you. And again, be able to address questions. We may not give you 100% what you may or may not want, but we're going to answer questions. And sir.
Once again, Calvin Mclaren, 223 Amity Avenue. Excuse me. I enjoyed the presentation, and I appreciate everything that the city is doing to grow. You know, we all deserve to grow a little bit, to see something different. But during the growth, I think there might be some things that might be overlooked here. I mean, because we all looking forward to, I'm excited. Don't get me wrong. I am not trying to tell y'all to stop. I'm just concerned about my little piece of the world, which is right there on Amity Street. Okay, so don't get me wrong. But based on what I'm looking at some of these things, now the way they have some of these houses designed, they're like 6 feet apart. I mean, considering the easement. If I'm a permanent resident there and I have my house there and I own my house, do I really want somebody 3 feet next to me? I mean, has that been considered? I mean, when I moved there, when nobody stand 3 feet next to me, now all of a sudden I got to accept the fact that somebody possibly put up a fence, right, within that area of, where I'm used to coming out, being able to look around, enjoy the nature, ain't got to worry about no fence, ain't no house there, but I know that's going to change. But still, at what point do we preserve what? We just give it all to nature? Because when they come in and build, the majority of the trees got to go down, they got to plant new. Okay, I enjoy my tall trees in my shaded area. I know I can't claim all of it. I mean, I wish I could come in and just buy up all the city of Muskegon and pay for it and just leave it the way it is. But it don't fit in progress. But I'm just asking, please, consider those people who was already residents there. Okay, now she want to speak on, wealth and all, and people holding on to their property. But some places where you come in, you're going to destroy that view of that property that was actually established when they moved there. So now it's like the joy they had there is no longer there. And, and we're not even going to get into who possibly your neighbor could be. It could be a neighbor from hell, like someone said, you've been living there now, they want to call the police on you because you're in your yard.
Yeah, I got a couple.
So, I mean, there's just so many things that I'm saying that do y'all thing. Don't stop. But please, consider those that are already here, that's accepting the change. Don't make them feel like they're being let down.
Absolutely.
Okay?
That's why we're
that's my thing. Hey, I approve it. Keep doing it.
Right.
But just consider those residents that's already here. Okay.
And I
Thank you.
expect you and I will be talking. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address this before we close the public hearing? Commissioner Enzema Saving?
I move to close the public hearing.
Support. It's been moved by Commissioner Enzema Savinga and seconded by the Vice Mayor to close the public hearing. Does this necessitate a vote for that?
Yes.
Okay. There's no action tonight. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gowron,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll continue on with the community conversations. Remember, everybody that sits up here lives here, from Commissioner German all the way down. That takes us to new business. Item A. May we have this read out, please?
Housing Board of Appeals demolitions, 181 Irwin, Public Safety. Summary request. HBA approved the demolition of 181 Irwin. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends that the City Commission concur with the HBA for the demo of 181 Irwin and approval from Commission to accept bids on this demolition.
There really isn't anything left there except it's burnt down. It needs to be removed. And any questions, Commissioner Enzema Saving?
I move to concur with the HB.
Oh, property owners here. Okay.
Oh.
All right.
It's been a long time since we've done this.
It has. But we can still proceed with the motion. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, I move that we concur with the HBA to demo 181 Irwin and approve the commission to accept bids on this demolition.
Support.
Been moved by Commissioner Enzema Savinga, supported by Commissioner Ramsey, to concur with the HBA to demo 181 Irwin and approval from the commission to accept bids on demolition. Chief, you want to give us a report out?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This one is a little simpler, simply because we had a fire on September 21st. Our fire department responded, and the house was a fully working fire. It was completely destroyed. Part of the process of putting the fire out was to do a partial demo just to get rid of those hot spots. And as you can see from the photographs, there really isn't much left. It's just a burned structure. The lot remains. I don't believe the owner is here tonight. They have not responded to any of the communications. So we're going to ask that the commission concur with the Housing Board of Appeals to finish the demolition of what you see in these photographs, which are pretty disturbing.
Okay. Thank you. Question, Chief?
Yes, Chief Lewis, thank you. Was there an investigation on how this fire started, or?
You know, we investigate all the fires. That's not part of this process. I do not believe it was a arson, or I'd hear about it by now. And we'd also wouldn't be demoing the house probably this quick if it was part of an actual arson investigation and subsequent crime.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions for Chief? Is there anyone in the audience here representing 181 Irwin in this matter? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Then roll call, please.
Mayor Gowron,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Commissioners, is there any other business at this time to bring before the body before we go to public comment? Okay, thank you. I do have a request from at least two people for open public comment. Again, we need your name and address. 3 minutes of comment is allotted. We do not engage, again, in debate or deliberation on these matters, and for any particular questions, if need be, we can always put you in touch for contact with the appropriate staff member. Michael Howeisen. I believe you have the topic of parking.
Yes. Michael Hollison, 903 Turner Avenue, Muskegon, Michigan. And basically, this goes back to a conversation that I had with you about a year ago about the parking right out here outside of City Hall. You put all the cars parking in the center lane and put the driving lanes to the outside. And I asked back then, how are the people supposed to be able to get out of their cars and not have a sidewalk to get onto? I got told at the time, well, we're going to rethink that. What happened? No rethink?
Oh, yes. A total reconfiguration of Terrace Street in the works.
Okay.
Okay.
Just curious, because as I was trying to get in here, there was a pickup parked at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see traffic coming this way.
But yeah, that's in the offing. Total reconfigure and redesign.
Yeah, because I hate getting halfway out into a lane to find out that, yeah, there is a car coming.
Yeah, me too. Agreed. Ms. Andrea Chambers. Good evening.
Hi. Thank you for giving us this opportunity
Absolutely.
to speak. Give me 1 second. My name's Andrea Chambers. My husband, Kimani Chambers. We reside at 3361 Lakeshore Drive. We own and operate Lake Effect Sport Bike Rentals at 1929 Lakeshore Drive. We're here tonight in response to the Ride Muskegon operating agreement that was brought before the commission on October 12th. We are also here to take the opportunity just to reintroduce ourselves to you and our community. While Kimani and I were unable to attend that meeting on the 12th, we wanted to take the opportunity to thank the commission for tabling that in the interest of due diligence. We very much appreciate that existing businesses like ours were taken into consideration as part of that conversation. When we moved to Muskegon and bought our home in 2018, it immediately felt like home. We lived kind of all over the country and decided to settle and work here. We fell in love with the lakeshore and the community and everything that Muskegon has to offer its residents and visitors. As outdoor enthusiasts with an entrepreneurial spirit, we also saw an opportunity to help connect people to the city's natural and cultural assets. Since opening the doors of Lake Effect Sport in 2019, we've been doing just that by offering traditional pedal bikes, e-bikes, and now e-scooter rentals. In addition to the usual hurdles a small business faces in its first years of operation, we've also weathered the economic downturn caused by the pandemic and infrastructure challenges, including the Lakeshore Drive construction project during our entire first summer of operation. A significant portion of the bike path being closed for more than a year also helped contribute. Despite these obstacles, Lake Effect Sport has not only survived, but we are growing. From the beginning, our vision has been to connect riders to our lakeshore location, to Pure Marquette Beach, to downtown and existing outlying areas. This past summer, we were able to offer weekend bike and e-scooter rentals on our location at the beach, thank you to our one-year concessionaire's agreement with the city. It was thrilling to see our dream move to its next phase. It was also a learning experience. And we've been hard at work planning on how we can grow our presence in the community and work with the city to bring a better riding experience to locals and visitors alike. We support Muskegon's goal to provide a safe and affordable multimodality transportation options and reduce traffic congestion while maximizing carbon-free mobility. We also understand consumers deserve to have choices when it comes to where and how to spend their dollars. Offering eco-friendly, low-cost mobility options to visitors and residents to navigate our beautiful city makes sense. Lake Effect Sport has the knowledge, boots-on-the-ground experience, and equipment to bring shared mobility service to Muskegon streets this spring and can provide the necessary labor force to handle the day-to-day operations as such. We are thrilled to be part of Muskegon's economic growth and proud to be an ambassador for our amazing lakeshore community. Thank you to the commissioners, specifically Commissioner Johnson and German, as well as the city staff and many citizens and local business owners who have readily made themselves available to us in the recent days. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm so glad you're home with us.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to make public comment before we all go home to dinner? Vice Mayor?
I think we got
Oh,
Miss
I'm
Day.
sorry.
Yeah.
You were behind the, that's right, please. And Ms. Day.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I'd like to say hello to everyone, and thank you for having us here. We have a couple of the members here, and I'm a spokesman for the Jackson Hill Village, and my name is Mary Ann Day, and I'm a concerned citizen and resident of the Jackson Hill Village. You have to excuse me because I'm dealing with sinus, and right now, we have some issues and complaints concerning where we live. We had no problem. I know rents going up everywhere. But how does a development come into your area and they just come in there and they're going up, they're gouging us for the water bill? I came down here to the city and they said they're not even connected with us. And I ended up, we didn't know which route to take, but we're starting out right now. We need some direction for how to take care of this here. And I called the city hall and they gave me Mr. Hood as my commissioner. And also, I think Mr. Sherman, since we in that area. But anyway, he sought out to see about getting some people to come in and help us. We had, before they came in, we had our rent and then we had our water bill on our rent statement. They don't have a water bill on the rent statement. But how do you, all of a sudden, I've got notes, letters where they say, give us a chance to find out how we're going to do the water. I've got the notes right back there. And give us a chance to see about how we're going to pay this water bill. I didn't use no more than about $15 worth of water. There are a lot of people that really was very conservative or not being at home all the time. How you send a resident out a $30 water bill? Some got a $280-something water bill. One woman, lady resident, had a $600 water bill. And how did this happen? But no one is at that complex to give us no answer. Every time you go to pay your rent, we paid okay, they went up on the rent. We paid that. But the next month, you wait until 7 to 9 days after the due date to send out a rent statement, and you're expecting some extra money. Okay, where the extra money come from? You turn around, resident go there, pay their rent, and then you call and say the resident has not paid his rent. And he said, yes, I did. He brought a receipt in, money order. Well, I'm sorry, it still don't show where you paid it. How you do a resident like that? Find out they took the money and paid something else with it instead of the rent. He just happened to catch them in that day because they called him in. Not only are we dealing with these water bills every month like that, no communication. That is so sad. How you put a store? How do you put anything in the presence of a community and not open it up?
Ms.
The
Day?
resident are looking forward to buying something or getting something.
Okay.
We do not have. They sent out letters. You are to
Ms.
call
Day,
this
I'm actually
number.
going to put you in with an
Okay.
individual that could at least help start moving with you through this situation. I think Mr. Spittler. Yeah. And that we make contact with Ms. Day.
No lease agreements.
Okay. But Mr. Spittler, he's with Safe Built, which is the inspections and rental compliance and the like. So if we could have you speak with him before you leave, and
Yes.
get your information.
We appreciate that.
Okay, and hopefully we can begin walking through this situation with you.
We appreciate it. All
Okay.
we're doing is looking for some help in the direction to get there. We appreciate your concern and listening to us. Appreciate it.
Okay, we got a question.
Excuse me. I think Ms. Day was speaking for the group
Yes.
and not just on her own. So she
Yes,
needs a little
for the whole
additional
group.
time, doesn't
We have a petition, and the only way that we were able to see about getting there, we had to go and get a, what you call the letter, the certified letter. And then they held a big meeting at their office right after they got it. And they told us that they could not meet with us because of the COVID, that they would meet with us on a one-on-one. But no, we don't trust that. That's not good. It's not right. So I am thankful for that. I had a resident, she wrote a check for her rent, and they told her that they did not receive it. And when they went to her house, she said, well, what do I write the check for? They told her $1,000, and she wrote it for her. You can't do residents like that. I understand, I'm along with the buildings and I like seeing progress, but I don't like being misused while you're doing what you're doing. And now residents do have some rights. So I appreciate what you've done, and I'm looking forward to.
We can start at that point, and if it needs to continue to, get more people involved.
Oh yeah, but we went down to the community meeting. We met down there, and there were more people involved, but there were some appointments and things that they couldn't make it here. But we had a nice session.
Sure.
Meeting yesterday.
So you'll make contact with Mr. Spitler before you leave out.
I appreciate that, Mayor.
And I'm going to give him your contact information right now.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Who's the owner of that building?
Gen Cap.
It was
Real Capital?
Yeah. Gen Cap. Jackson Hill LLC. I got it.
It wasn't. I
wrote
thought it was
down.
Serenity or something like that. Was it that group? Or?
KMG is managing it.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But they're not.
Gen Cap is the actual owner.
And they bought up so many developments until they cannot be there for trying to manage all these other developments that they have bought up around there. And like I said, I'm just in disagreement with that.
And I just have one thing to say,
Resident.
because I believe when they came in front of this commission, one of the questions that was asked about anyone that was living there would be affected by the rent actually being inflated, but new residents would take the burden of the brunt and have Flint. So I think that's something the commission really needs to look into.
I appreciate it.
Information, but right now, to be able to get some clarification on with the water and all the like.
Thank you so much.
We will start walking through this with you. Okay?
I appreciate that.
All right, Ms. Jack.
And the residents do too. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the commission before, as I said, we go home for dinner? Vice Mayor?
I move to
Support. Been moved by the Vice Mayor, supported by that other guy that we call Commissioner Muskegon. All in favor? Aye. Any in opposition? Nay. Thank you for coming out tonight, everyone.